Commander Zektar of the Galactic Defense Fleet had seen many things in his 40 cycles of service. He had witnessed the destruction of entire star systems, commanded fleets through the violent storms of colliding galaxies, and negotiated truces between species that had been at war for millennia. But nothing, absolutely nothing, had prepared him for what appeared on his sensors that day. The bridge of the Eternal Vigilance hummed with the usual sounds of deep space patrol. Officers from 12 different species worked side by side, their various forms of communication creating a symphony of clicks, whistles, and harmonic tones that had become as familiar to Zektar as his own heartbeat. The ship itself was a marvel of galactic engineering, stretching nearly 3 kilometers from bow to stern, bristling with quantum torpedoes and phase cannons that could reduce a moon to cosmic dust. "Commander!" called out Lieutenant Vexana from the sensor station, her 4 arms dancing across the holographic displays with practiced precision. "I'm detecting an anomaly at Grid 77 Alpha." Zektar's scaled features tightened as he turned toward the main view screen. In all his years of service, anomalies rarely brought good news. "Elaborate, Lieutenant." "It appears to be a vessel, sir, but the readings are unusual." Vexana's tentacled head swiveled toward him, confusion evident in her large black eyes. "The ship's energy signature doesn't match any known configuration in our databases." "Unknown configuration?" Zektar moved closer to the sensor station, his clawed feet clicking against the polished deck. "Are you suggesting we've encountered a new species?" "That's just it, sir. The technology appears familiar, yet completely alien at the same time. The hull composition shows traces of refined titanium and steel alloys, materials we've seen before but never in this specific combination. And Commander—" Vexana paused, her voice dropping to barely above a whisper. "The ship is massive. Our sensors indicate it's nearly 12 kilometers long." A silence fell over the bridge. 12 kilometers was larger than most space stations, let alone a single vessel. Even the mighty dreadnoughts of the Zephyrian Empire, the largest ships in known space, rarely exceeded 6 kilometers in length. "Put it on screen," Zektar ordered, settling into his command chair. The material shifted to accommodate his reptilian physiology, a small comfort as his mind raced through possibilities. The view screen flickered and then displayed what could only be described as a monument to warfare. The vessel hung in space like a sleeping giant, its dark gray hull reflecting the distant starlight in patterns that seemed almost organic. Unlike the sleek curved designs favored by most galactic civilizations, this ship was built with sharp angles and brutal efficiency. Weapon emplacements dotted its surface like mechanical scales, each one larger than the main guns on Zektar's own ship. "By the ancient gods," whispered Navigator Thulkan from his position near the stellar cartography station. His gas-based form shimmered with what Zektar recognized as fear. "What manner of species builds something like that?" The ship's design was intimidating in its simplicity. No ornate decorations or artistic flourishes marked its hull. Every line, every surface spoke of one purpose, the projection of overwhelming force. Massive hangar bays yawned open along its flanks, large enough to house entire squadrons of fighters. Sensor arrays and communication dishes sprouted from its superstructure like technological growths, giving it an almost biological appearance, despite its clearly artificial nature. "Commander!" Vexana's voice had taken on an urgent tone. "I'm detecting movement. The vessel is changing course." Zektar felt his blood chill. Something that large shouldn't be able to maneuver quickly, yet his sensors showed the massive ship turning with surprising grace. "Are they heading toward us?" "Negative, sir. They appear to be moving toward the Calarian trade route. If they maintain current speed and heading, they'll intercept the merchant convoy scheduled to pass through that sector in approximately 6 hours." The implications hit Zektar like a physical blow. The Calarian trade route was one of the most heavily traveled commercial passages in this sector of the galaxy. Hundreds of civilian vessels used it daily, carrying everything from rare minerals to medical supplies for frontier colonies. If this unknown vessel had hostile intentions— "Hail them," Zektar commanded. "Standard first contact protocols." Communications Officer Rillax's crystalline fingers danced over her console, sending out greeting messages in the 17 most common galactic languages. The universal translators hummed as they prepared backup communication methods, from mathematical sequences to simple pictographs. Minutes passed. The unknown vessel continued its course toward the trade route, seemingly oblivious to their attempts at communication. "No response, Commander," Rillax reported. "They're either ignoring us or using a communication method we don't recognize." Zektar stood and began pacing, a habit he'd developed during stressful situations. His tactical training was screaming warnings at him. An unknown vessel of that size, ignoring communication attempts, heading directly for civilian shipping lanes. It had all the hallmarks of a prelude to disaster. "Send an emergency transmission to Fleet Command," he ordered. "Include all sensor data on this vessel. Request immediate backup and authorization to take defensive action if necessary." "Transmission sent, sir," Rillax confirmed. "But at this distance, it will take nearly 3 hours for our message to reach headquarters and another 3 for any response." 3 hours. The convoy would be intercepted long before any help could arrive. Zektar found himself in the position every commander dreaded, making a decision that could affect thousands of lives based on incomplete information. "Analysis, Lieutenant Vexana. In your opinion, what is that ship capable of?" The sensor officer's tentacles writhed as she processed the data streaming across her displays. "Based on the energy readings and weapon placements visible on the hull, I estimate this vessel could engage and destroy our entire patrol squadron without significant effort. The weapons appear to be some form of accelerated projectile system, possibly magnetic in nature, very different from our energy-based armaments." "Projectile weapons?" Navigator Thulkan's gaseous form rippled with what might have been laughter. "How primitive. No civilized species has used kinetic weapons for warfare in over 2,000 years. "Don't underestimate primitive technology," Zektar warned. "Sometimes the oldest methods are the most effective. What else can you tell me, Lieutenant?" "The ship appears to be heavily shielded, though not with energy barriers like ours. Their hull seems to be designed to absorb and deflect impacts, rather than deflect them with force fields. It's an interesting approach. Crude, perhaps, but potentially very effective against energy weapons." Zektar nodded grimly. The more he learned about this vessel, the more concerned he became. Its designers had clearly thought differently about space combat than any known civilization. While galactic naval doctrine focused on speed, maneuverability, and energy shields, this ship seemed built to simply absorb punishment and keep fighting. "Commander," Vexana called out suddenly, "I'm detecting new activity from the vessel." "What kind of activity?" "Multiple smaller craft are launching from the hangar bays. Dozens of them, sir. They appear to be some sort of fighter or escort vessel." The view screen automatically zoomed in, showing tiny specks of light streaming from the massive ship like angry insects. Even at maximum magnification, the individual craft were barely visible, but their sheer numbers were staggering. "How many?" Zektar asked, though he wasn't sure he wanted to know the answer. "Computer is still counting, sir. So far, we've detected over 200 individual craft and more are launching. 200 fighters." Zektar's own ship carried a complement of 12 interceptors, considered standard for a vessel of its class. Even the massive carrier ships used by the Galactic Defense Fleet rarely deployed more than 50 fighters at once. "New contact!" Tactical Officer Grundal's gravelly voice cut through the bridge chatter. "Multiple vessels dropping out of hyperspace near the trade route. Looks like the merchant convoy, sir. They're right on schedule." Zektar felt his heart sink. The timing couldn't have been worse. Innocent civilians were about to find themselves in the path of an unknown and potentially hostile force. Distance to the convoy? Approximately 2 million kilometers and closing. Too far, even at maximum speed. The Eternal Vigilance couldn't reach the convoy before the unknown vessel intercepted them. Zektar found himself in the impossible position of being able to watch a potential massacre unfold without being able to prevent it. "Sir," Vexana's voice was tight with concentration. "I'm picking up communication chatter from the convoy. They've detected the unknown vessel. Put it through." The bridge speakers crackled to life, filled with the panicked voices of civilian ship captains. Multiple species were talking at once, their universal translators struggling to keep up with the overlapping conversations. "Never seen anything like it. Requesting immediate assistance. Weapons are charging. Repeat, unknown vessels' weapons are charging. This is Merchant Captain Kelmos of the Prosperity's Dream. We are a civilian convoy. Repeat, civilian convoy." Zektar clenched his fists. The merchant captains were doing everything right, broadcasting their civilian status and non-hostile intentions. If the unknown vessel attacked them anyway, it would be clear proof of their aggressive nature. "Commander," Vexana reported, her voice barely steady. "All stations are showing massive energy buildups throughout the unknown vessel. Whatever they're planning to do, they're preparing to do it with overwhelming force." The bridge fell silent except for the continuing stream of increasingly frantic communications from the merchant convoy. On the view screen, the massive unknown vessel continued its inexorable approach toward the civilian ships, its fighter escort spreading out in what could only be described as an attack formation. Zektar had commanded ships in 3 major galactic conflicts. He had seen entire fleets reduced to expanding clouds of debris. He had witnessed the fall of star systems and the extinction of entire species. But somehow, watching those innocent merchant vessels face an unknown threat filled him with a dread unlike anything he had ever experienced. "All hands battle stations," he commanded quietly. "Set course for the convoy, maximum speed." "Sir," Navigator Thulkan's gaseous form shimmered with concern. "At current distance, we won't arrive for another 47 minutes. "I know," Zektar replied grimly. "But we have to try." As the Eternal Vigilance changed course and began accelerating toward what might be their doom, every being on the bridge watched the view screen with growing horror. The unknown vessel was now close enough to the convoy that individual merchant ships were visible as tiny specks of light against the vast darkness of space. What happened next would determine not just the fate of those civilian ships, but potentially the future of galactic civilization itself. For the first time in over 1,000 years of galactic peace, an unknown military force was about to make contact with civilian traffic. And no one knew if they came in peace or war. The silence that followed was more terrifying than any battle cry. Commander Zektar watched his tactical display as the unknown vessel's fighter escort reached the merchant convoy. 200 unknown fighters against 15 unarmed civilian ships. The mathematics of destruction were simple and brutal. Yet something was wrong. The expected cascade of weapons fire, the brilliant flashes of exploding ships, the electromagnetic screams of dying vessels, none of it came. Instead, everything simply stopped. "Lieutenant Vexana," Zektar's voice was barely above a whisper. "Report." The sensor officer's 4 arms moved frantically across her displays, her large black eyes reflecting the confusion that gripped the entire bridge. "Sir, I'm reading something impossible. The merchant convoy has stopped moving completely, not slowing down, not changing course, stopped, dead in space." "Engine failures?" Tactical Officer Grundal suggested, his rocky features creased with concern. "Perhaps the unknown vessels have some sort of disabling weapon." "Negative," Vexana shook her tentacled head. "I'm detecting no weapon discharges of any kind. No energy beams, no projectiles, no electromagnetic pulses. The merchant ship simply stopped. Navigator Thulkan's gaseous form rippled with agitation. Ships don't just stop in deep space without cause. The laws of physics don't allow for it. Zektar found himself staring at the view screen, trying to process what his eyes and instruments were telling him. In his decades of military service, he had encountered many strange phenomena, but this defied explanation. Ships in motion stayed in motion unless acted upon by an external force. It was one of the fundamental principles of space travel. "Sir," Communications Officer Rillax's crystalline voice cut through his thoughts. "I'm receiving transmissions from the convoy, but they're strange." "Strange how?" "The communication patterns are completely different from a few minutes ago. Before, we were receiving standard distress calls and panic responses. Now the messages are calm, organized, almost formal." Zektar felt a chill run down his scaled spine. "Put them through." The bridge speakers activated, but instead of the panicked babble they had been monitoring, a single, clear voice emerged. It spoke in perfect galactic standard, though with an accent Zektar had never heard before. "This is Admiral Sarah Chen of the United Earth Star Navy, speaking on behalf of the merchant vessel Prosperity's Dream and her convoy. To any Galactic Defense Fleet vessels monitoring this channel, please identify yourselves and state your intentions." The bridge fell into stunned silence. Admiral? United Earth Star Navy? Zektar had never heard of any species calling themselves humans, let alone claiming to represent something called Earth. "Did she say she was speaking on behalf of the merchant convoy?" Vexana asked quietly. "That's what I heard," Rillax confirmed. "But how can someone from the unknown vessel be speaking for the civilian ships?" Zektar stood slowly, his mind racing through possibilities. "Hail them back. This is Commander Zektar of the Galactic Defense Fleet vessel Eternal Vigilance. We are responding to a potential threat against civilian shipping. Please clarify your status and intentions." The response came almost immediately. The same calm, professional voice. "Commander Zektar, we appreciate your concern for civilian safety. We have taken temporary custody of this convoy for their protection while we investigate reports of pirate activity in this sector. The merchant crews are unharmed and will be released once we confirm the area is secure." Temporary custody? Grundal's rocky features shifted into what might have been a scowl. "They're holding civilian ships hostage and calling it protection?" "Sir," Vexana interrupted urgently, "I'm detecting massive energy signatures from the unknown vessel. Whatever they're doing, it's requiring enormous amounts of power." Zektar felt his tactical instincts screaming warnings. "What kind of energy signatures?" "Unknown type, sir. It's not matching any known weapon or defensive system in our database. The energy patterns are completely alien, but the scale is enormous. I estimate the output is equivalent to the total power generation of a small space station." The implications were staggering. A ship that could generate that much power could potentially do almost anything, disable entire fleets, destroy planets, or worse, yet they claim to be protecting the convoy, not threatening it. "Admiral Chen," Zektar said carefully, "we have no record of pirate activity in this sector. Our regular patrols have reported no incidents for over 6 months. Perhaps we could discuss this situation and coordinate our efforts?" There was a pause before the response came. "Commander, we have detected and eliminated 17 pirate vessels in this system within the past 47 minutes. Your sensors may not have detected them due to their advanced stealth capabilities." 17 pirate vessels? Zektar looked at his sensor officer. "Lieutenant, have we detected any other ships besides the convoy and the unknown vessel?" Vexana's tentacles writhed as she checked and rechecked her displays. "Negative, sir. Our sensors show no other vessels within 3 million kilometers." "Sir," Rillax's voice took on an urgent tone, "I'm receiving secondary transmissions. It's the merchant convoy, but these are on emergency frequencies." "Put them through." What came through the speakers was unlike anything Zektar had ever heard. Instead of the voices of various galactic species, he heard humans speaking. Dozens of them, all using the same unfamiliar accent as Admiral Chen. Merchant vessel Prosperity's Dream secure. Crew of 15 Calarian traders conscious and unharmed. Golden Venture reporting all cargo intact. Host crew appears confused but uninjured. Star Dancer shows signs of minor hull stress from the translation process. Recommend structural reinforcement before release. Translation process? Zektar muttered. The more he heard, the less sense it made. Admiral Chen, he said aloud, we are monitoring multiple transmissions that suggest your people are aboard the civilian vessels. Can you explain how this is possible? Again, the calm, professional response. Commander, our boarding parties used standard transportation protocols. The civilian crews have been temporarily relocated to our ship for their safety while we conduct security sweeps of their vessels. Transportation protocols? Vexana looked up from her sensor station. Sir, I've been monitoring continuously. No shuttlecraft have moved between the unknown vessel and the convoy. No transport signatures, no energy discharges indicating teleportation technology. How did they board those ships? Zektar was beginning to feel like he was losing his grip on reality. Everything he was being told contradicted everything his instruments were showing. Either his sensors were malfunctioning on an unprecedented scale, or these humans possessed technology so advanced it was indistinguishable from magic. Commander, Admiral Chen's voice returned. We've completed our security sweep and eliminated all threats in the area. We're prepared to release the merchant vessels to continue their journey. However, we'd like to request a meeting with Galactic Defense Fleet representatives to discuss coordination of anti-piracy efforts in this region. A meeting? Zektar considered the request. Standard first contact protocols did call for diplomatic discussions, but everything about this situation was far from standard. Admiral, we would be willing to arrange such a meeting. Perhaps you could provide us with some basic information about your people and your technology? Of course, Commander. We are representatives of the human species from the planet Earth. We recently developed faster-than-light travel and have been exploring this region of space. We were not aware that it was under the protection of the Galactic Defense Fleet until we intercepted pirate communications mentioning your patrols. Recently developed? Zektar's tactical training was sending up every warning flag he possessed. Species that had just achieved faster-than-light travel didn't build 12-kilometer warships and deploy 200 fighters. Admiral, forgive me for asking, but how long has your species possessed interstellar travel capability? Approximately 14 months, Commander? The bridge fell silent. Zektar felt his legs give way slightly, and he sat down heavily in his command chair. 14 months. Most species took centuries to develop the industrial capacity to build anything larger than a small scout ship after achieving FTL travel. Sir, Vexana whispered, new contacts. The merchant ships are moving again. On the view screen, Zektar could see the civilian vessels resuming their original courses and speeds, as if they had never been stopped. No visible damage, no sign of the ordeal they had supposedly just endured. This is Merchant Captain Kelmos of the Prosperity's Dream, came a familiar voice through the communication system. We are resuming course to the Antares station. We want to thank the human patrol for eliminating the pirate threat we were unaware of. Their technology is remarkable. Captain Kelmos, Zektar called out quickly. Can you describe what happened to your vessel? Oh, Commander Zektar. Good to hear from the Defense Fleet. The humans detected 17 cloaked pirate vessels that were preparing to attack our convoy. They moved us to safety while their fighters engaged the pirates. Very professional operation, though their technology is unlike anything I've ever seen. Did you see these pirate vessels yourself? Well, no. The human admiral explained that they were using advanced stealth technology that our sensors couldn't detect. But they showed us the debris afterward. Quite thorough, they were. Zektar felt a growing sense of unreality. Either there was an elaborate conspiracy involving the merchant convoy, or these humans had capabilities that bordered on the impossible. "Admiral Chen," he said finally, "we accept your request for a meeting. However, given the unprecedented nature of this encounter, I'll need to request permission from my superiors before proceeding." "Understood, Commander. We'll remain in this area for the next 72 hours awaiting your response. In the meantime, we'll continue our patrol for any additional pirate activity." "Admiral," Zektar added carefully, "for our records, could you provide the current location of your vessel? Our sensors are having difficulty maintaining a lock on your position." There was a pause, then what might have been amusement in the human's voice. "Commander, we're currently located approximately 50,000 kilometers off your starboard bow. Perhaps you should check your long-range sensors." Zektar looked at Vexana, who was already adjusting her displays. Her forearms moved frantically across the controls before she looked up with an expression of pure bewilderment. "Sir, there's nothing there. Empty space for over 1,000,000 kilometers in that direction." "Admiral Chen," Zektar said slowly, "we show no vessels at those coordinates." "Interesting. Commander, what type of sensor array does your ship employ?" "Standard quantum resonance detection with gravimetric backup systems." "Ah, that explains it. Our stealth systems are specifically designed to defeat quantum resonance sensors. Don't worry, Commander. When we meet in person, you'll be able to see us clearly." The transmission ended, leaving the bridge of the Eternal Vigilance in stunned silence. Zektar found himself staring at empty space, knowing that somewhere out there was a massive warship and 200 fighters completely invisible to his sensors. "Sir," Rillax's voice was barely a whisper. "What do we do now?" Zektar looked around at his crew. Seeing his own confusion and concern reflected in every face, they had just encountered something that challenged every assumption about technology, physics, and the nature of galactic civilization. "Now," he said finally, "we send a very detailed report to Fleet Command, and we pray they believe us." Fleet Admiral Korvash had commanded the Galactic Defense Fleet for over 30 years. In that time, he had seen the rise and fall of civilizations, mediated conflicts between species separated by millions of light years, and overseen the longest period of galactic peace in recorded history. But as he read Commander Zektar's report for the third time, he found himself questioning everything he thought he knew about the universe. The emergency council chamber aboard the massive command station Unity's Voice was filled with representatives from 12 major galactic powers. Each species had sent their finest military minds, their most experienced diplomats, and their leading scientists. The air recyclers worked overtime to accommodate the diverse atmospheric requirements, creating a barely controlled chaos of breathable gases that somehow managed to keep everyone alive. "Invisible ships," grumbled General Thokmar of the Zephyrian Empire, his massive frame barely fitting in the reinforced chair designed for his rock-like physiology. "In my 300 years of service, I have never heard such nonsense." Ambassador Selena of the Ethereal Collective rippled with what might have been agreement, her energy-based form casting shifting shadows on the chamber walls. "The physics alone make this impossible. No known stealth technology can completely mask a 12-kilometer vessel from quantum resonance sensors." "Yet Commander Zektar's reputation is beyond reproach," Fleet Admiral Korvash reminded them. His own species, the reptilian saurians, had been among the first to achieve faster-than-light travel, and their military traditions emphasized careful observation and accurate reporting. His crew's testimonies are consistent, and the sensor logs confirm their observations of the merchant convoy's impossible behavior. Dr. Nexus, the artificial intelligence representing the machine collective, projected a three-dimensional hologram of the encounter. Analysis of the provided data reveals several anomalies that cannot be explained by known technology. The complete cessation of momentum in the merchant vessels violates fundamental laws of physics. Unless, interjected Science Minister Valka of the Crystal Dominion, her faceted form catching and refracting the chamber's lights, these humans possess technology we have not yet discovered. The word humans seemed to hang in the air like an accusation. In all the galactic databases, spanning over 50,000 known species and 10,000 years of recorded history, there was no reference to any civilization calling itself by that name. Which brings us to the central question, Fleet Admiral Korvash continued. Who are these humans and what do they want? More importantly, added General Thokmar, what are they capable of? A species that develops 12-kilometer warships within 14 months of achieving FTL travel represents either the greatest military threat in galactic history or the most elaborate hoax ever conceived. Ambassador Selena pulsed with concern. The implications for galactic stability are enormous. If these humans possess such advanced technology, every existing power structure becomes obsolete overnight. Dr. Nexus projected new data streams. Probability analysis suggests a 47.3% chance that this represents first contact with a species possessing technology significantly beyond our current understanding. Alternative explanations include experimental weapons testing by an unknown faction, time travelers from our own future, or intervention by extra-dimensional beings. Time travelers? General Thokmar's gravelly laugh shook the chamber. Now you're talking pure fantasy. General, Dr. Nexus replied calmly, 3 hours ago, invisible warships and instantaneous transportation were also fantasy. We must consider all possibilities. Fleet Admiral Korvash raised his clawed hand for silence. We can debate theories later. Right now, we need to decide how to respond to their meeting request. Commander Zektar is still waiting for orders. Send the entire 7th Fleet, General Thokmar said immediately. Whatever these humans are, they should understand that we take their presence seriously. That could be interpreted as an act of aggression, Ambassador Selena warned. If they are truly as powerful as they appear, provoking them could be disastrous. Science Minister Valka's crystalline form chimed with harmonics that indicated deep thought. Perhaps we should focus on the most puzzling aspect of this encounter. They claim to have eliminated 17 pirate vessels that our sensors never detected, yet they showed evidence of debris to the merchant convoy. Dr. Nexus immediately began processing the implications. If they can create convincing physical evidence of events that never occurred within our observable reality, the technological implications are staggering. Or, Fleet Admiral Korvash said quietly, the pirates existed in a way our sensors couldn't detect, just as the human ships do. The chamber fell silent as the full implications of that statement sank in. If there were ships moving through space that galactic sensors couldn't detect, how many other vessels might be out there? How many unknown civilizations might have been watching, waiting, studying the galactic powers from the shadows? Admiral, came a new voice from the chamber's communication system. Priority transmission from Commander Zektar. He reports the humans have made contact again. Put him through. Commander Zektar's scaled features appeared on the main display. But something was different. Where before he had looked confused and concerned, now he appeared almost bewildered. Fleet Admiral, Zektar began, I need to report additional developments. The humans have just, well, sir, they've just solved our piracy problem. Explain? 3 hours ago, they transmitted coordinates for what they claimed were 17 hidden pirate bases throughout this sector. Bases our intelligence networks never located, sir. I dispatched patrol ships to investigate and... Zektar paused, seemingly struggling with his words. Every coordinate was accurate. We found massive pirate installations, some of them operational for years, completely invisible to our detection systems. General Thokmar leaned forward in his chair. How could pirates operate installations we couldn't detect? That's just it, sir. They weren't using any stealth technology we recognize. The bases were simply elsewhere. The human admiral tried to explain it to me, but the concepts don't translate well. She mentioned something about dimensional phasing and quantum displacement. Dr. Nexus immediately began analyzing the new data. Commander, are you saying these pirate bases existed in parallel dimensional space? I honestly don't know what I'm saying anymore, sir, but I can tell you this. We've arrested over 400 pirates today, seized enough contraband to fill a space station, and liberated 17 ships that had been reported missing over the past 6 months. Fleet Admiral Corvash felt his world shifting beneath him. Commander, what is the current status of the human vessel? Unknown, sir. They transmitted the pirate base coordinates, thanked us for our cooperation, and then vanished. Our sensors show empty space where they were supposedly located. Did they leave any message about the requested meeting? Yes, sir. Admiral Chen said they would make formal diplomatic contact when we were ready to discuss reality-based solutions to multidimensional problems. I'm not entirely sure what that means. Ambassador Selena pulsed with agitation. It sounds like they're suggesting our understanding of reality itself is limited. Science Minister Valka's crystalline form rang with what might have been excitement. Or they're offering to teach us about aspects of physics we haven't discovered yet. The question, Dr. Nexus interjected, is whether we're ready for such knowledge. History suggests that when a primitive civilization encounters significantly advanced technology, the results are rarely positive for the primitive civilization. General Thakmar's rocky features hardened with determination. Are you suggesting we're the primitive civilization in this scenario? General, Fleet Admiral Corvash said carefully, I'm beginning to think that's exactly what we are. The chamber fell into contemplative silence. For thousands of years, the various galactic powers had considered themselves the pinnacle of technological and cultural achievement. They had explored thousands of star systems, cataloged millions of species, and built a civilization that spanned entire spiral arms of the galaxy. Yet in a single day, everything they thought they knew had been challenged by a species that claimed to have achieved FTL travel only 14 months ago. Commander Zektar, Fleet Admiral Corvash said finally, transmit a message to the humans. Tell them we accept their offer of diplomatic contact, and we're ready to learn about these reality-based solutions they mentioned. Sir, General Thakmar protested. Are we sure about this? We don't know their intentions. General, the Fleet Admiral replied, they could have destroyed our patrol ship, seized the merchant convoy, and disappeared without anyone being able to stop them. Instead, they eliminated a pirate network we didn't even know existed and offered to share their knowledge. Either they're the most benevolent advanced civilization in galactic history, or they're so far beyond us that they don't consider us a threat worth worrying about. And if it's the latter? Fleet Admiral Corvash looked around the chamber at the assembled representatives of galactic civilization, some of the most powerful species in known space, reduced to wondering if they were children playing with toys they didn't understand. Then we learn everything we can and hope they're willing to teach us, because if they're not, I suspect we'll find out very quickly just how primitive we really are. The transmission to Commander Zektar was brief and professional. Within minutes, a response came from Admiral Chen, confirming that a formal diplomatic meeting would take place in 72 hours at coordinates she would provide. As the council chamber began to empty, each representative returning to brief their respective governments, Dr. Nexus remained behind, processing the day's events with the cold logic that only artificial intelligence could provide. Fleet Admiral, the AI said quietly, I have completed analysis of all available data regarding this human encounter. And your conclusion? Sir, based on demonstrated capabilities and technological advancement curves, I calculate a 94.7% probability that human civilization represents what we would classify as a Class 4 technological society. Fleet Admiral Corvash felt his blood chill. Class 4? That's theoretical. No civilization has ever achieved Class 4 status. Precisely, sir. Class 4 implies mastery over the fundamental forces of reality itself, the ability to manipulate space, time, matter, and energy at will. If my calculations are correct, we have just made contact with a species that has transcended the normal limitations of physical existence. And they want to meet with us. Yes, sir. The question is not what they want from us. Beings of their technological level would have no need for anything we could provide. The question is what they want for us. As Fleet Admiral Corvash left the council chamber, he found himself looking up at the stars visible through the massive viewport. Somewhere out there, invisible to all their sensors and defying all their understanding of physics, the humans waited. In 3 days, representatives of galactic civilization would meet beings who had apparently mastered the very fabric of reality itself. Whether that meeting would mark the beginning of a new golden age or the end of galactic civilization as they knew it remained to be seen. But one thing was certain: nothing would ever be the same again.